Welcome to the Morning Report for Monday, October 17th. I'm Tishia Hines. Criminals with guns in Barbados are often as well equipped as the police. This revelation from Attorney General Dale Marshall, who's been making the point that policing today is very different from years ago. The Attorney General
The environment in which the service operates today is vastly different from the environment that they operated in 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And for those of you who were born perhaps in the 70s and earlier, I think you would have a good idea of what I'm talking about. The environment that our officers face today is one where they see a wider range of crime, some of which is more complex and far more dangerous than police officers of 2 generations ago. They're expected to respond to an increased level of gun crimes in particular, but also property crimes, financial crimes, crimes against the person, and in vogue these days is even cybercrime. Criminals have become more brazen. You see this. They've become more calculating and more savvy. In the case of gun crime, which I know concerns all of you, they are oftentimes as well equipped as the police service. I highlight this not to alarm you, but to underscore why it is so important for the public represented today by this congregation to play its part by assisting the police in every way possible. I've said it before, I can't say enough. If you see something, say something.
The Attorney General was speaking during a service at the Calvary Temple Community Church to encourage lawmen, particularly in light of the gun violence in recent months. He also noted that concern about the crime situation is not restricted to Barbados.
We know that crime continues to be a major concern for the Barbadian public. And I take no solace in the fact that we are having a similar situation across the region, but it tells us that there's something happening that is not just local. In fact, only last week at a meeting in Jamaica, the Council of Law Enforcement Ministers and Ministers of National Security resolved that it was important for us to host in the region a special meeting to look at violence as a public health issue.
Mr. Marshall also spoke about the manpower shortage in Barbados Police Service and efforts to remedy that situation.
We all know that over the years the service has been unable to attract the number of recruits that it needs. In fact, I can tell you that early in our last term, and I think Assistant Commissioner can confirm this, that we had a particular cohort at the training school of only 18 officers. 18 of our young men and women, only 18 in that year, were prepared to come forward and to join the service. I think the numbers have now moved up significantly and we're now in our 40s. And if you have been following social media, you would have seen in the last day or so a very, very nice promotion inviting people to join the police service. We do need a few good men and women. In fact, 250 to be precise.
Coming up on the CBC Morning Report, local police destroy more than 100 guns. That's next.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb and together we will travel the world.
168 illegal guns taken off the streets are now scrap metal. They were destroyed during an operation yesterday morning by the Barbados Police Service at the Central Police Station. Acting Communications and Public Affairs Officer in the Barbados Police Service, Inspector Stephen Griffith, explained the process to CBC News.
These guns came into the police custody through police investigations, and others were returned by family members where the license holders are deceased. The judicial matters involving some of these weapons are completed. The Barbados Police Service will continue to keep Barbados safe by removing as many guns from the streets as we can.
The removal and destruction of guns and ammunition is an ongoing process, and the acting inspector says it is part of the efforts of police to keep Barbados safe.
We're doing pretty well, and we will continue the process along with the help of several Barbadians. And Barbadians want this country to be safe, and therefore they will continue to assist us, and we will continue to assist the country to keep Barbados safe.
Over in neighboring St. Lucia, the Commissioner of Police there has been speaking out about his force's efforts to deal with gun-related crime. He says lawmen have had some success.
Commissioner of Police Milton Daisy was quizzed on the police force's response to the high level of gun violence in St. Lucia. According to the Commissioner, the Royal St. Lucia Police Force has adopted a multi-pronged approach which is producing results. He points to the number of illegal guns confiscated this year as evidence of success.
128 firearms were recovered last year, and this year so far we had 73, and persons have been charged for the firearms. Some of them have been convicted, others are on remand, and others are in prison for the firearms. So the police is actually...
We are working.
We are working towards seeing that those firearms are taken off the streets.
Mm-hmm.
The head of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force notes one area of grave concern, that of firearms being brought into St. Lucia through official ports of entry. He says more sophisticated instruments are required to detect guns passing through customs.
Now, and the history has shown that we have intercepted firearms at the ports of entry. So I believe one of the things that we need to do is to have the equipment to detect those firearms, like scanners and so on, yes. so that it do not reach the streets.
Barbados has challenged the world's governing bodies to include and grant states from the Caribbean and Africa seats at the table, especially in times of financial need. Prime Minister Mia Moore-Maudsley sees this as critical going forward, given the populations of the two regions. She says countries in the Caribbean and Africa need to have the capacity to build and to prepare against future pandemics and against climate crises. Prime Minister Maudsley was at the time delivering the 6th annual Babacar Ndiaye lecture. Her topic, Africa and the developing world in a turbulent global financial architecture.
I know that when a number of us met in Barbados, in Bridgetown, at the end of July, we worried then that there were about 44 countries on the brink of a debt precipice. This week, I'm being told that it is roughly 56 countries. I ask you tonight, what will it be by the end of the year?
Ms. Motley again shed light on Barbados and other countries in the region that are front line in the climate crisis. She says these climate vulnerable countries must be assisted in building resilience.
When the Paris Agreement was being settled, Small island developing states were told, come to the table. We need you to sign off. We will give you a loss and damage mechanism. The Warsaw mechanism for loss and damage was referred to us. Today, there is no mechanism for loss and damage. And I can only pray that by the time we reach Egypt, that it shall be on the agenda because the justice of the moment demands it.
At 6:30, we get you going with Morning Barbados, but we have more news still to come on the CBC Morning Report after this break.
It's alleged that at one time it misfired.
Stories of Barbadian communities as told by her people.
And the shell landed somewhere in Kernels on a man donkey pen. He had just moved the donkey.
My Community, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Repeated on Wednesday at 1 p.m.
My Community, brought to you by the People's Market in Tudor Bridge. We do it right. My Community, on air and online.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Morning...
Attorney General Dale Marshall has given the assurance recent complaints against police officers will be addressed, referring to some criticisms leveled at lawmen regarding their response to reports about criminal activity. The Attorney General says, if true, he expects there will be consequences.
I've had a serious discussion with the Commission. I've asked him to investigate every single incident, and if true, the individuals complained of are to be read the Riot Act and punished as severely as the regulations allow. One errant police officer can make the difference between you feeling confident about coming forward and saying, I saw this, I know this. And we want to restore that confidence.
Mr. Marshall made the comment as he stressed the importance of police maintaining the public's confidence and trust. He was speaking during a service at the Calvary Temple Community Church to encourage lawmen in light of the uptick in crime, particularly gun violence. The Attorney General also spoke of the officers' commitment to serve and protect, even during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, when many were out sick on some occasions.
I want to remind you that in the height of the pandemic, you saw the police everywhere. But you would be surprised to know that on many occasions during the height of the pandemic, the number of police officers was significantly diminished because large numbers of them were in either isolation or in quarantine. But you never knew that. You never knew that because they continue to deliver exactly the same service that I hope you've become accustomed to.
With the embrace of remote work with the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, the Barbados Employers Confederation found a lot of businesses were not fully equipped to accommodate it. Executive Director Sheena Mears-Granville stressed that given the circumstances, though rushed, it had to be done. She says while some employees were eager to work remotely, others were resistant. She, however, notes without the proper structure, an employer cannot continue with this mode of work in the long term. The BEC official was latest guest on the one-on-one series hosted by the Public Affairs Department.
What we have been advising persons, and what we've advised them in the past, is you have to look at your organizational structure. You have to look at your organizational culture, which is very critical. And then look at the needs of your customers when you're looking at remote work policies. The reality is every job cannot be done remotely. And I know sometimes that throws up issues of fairness. So why can this person work from home and I can't? That type of thing. But remote work is one of those things that it can be good and it can be bad. And it doesn't work for everyone in every situation.
Ms. Mears Granville says every request from an employee working remotely or even an employer may not be reasonable. She adds companies have to match the benefit versus the cost when employees start demanding things that seem unreasonable.
In terms of health and safety concerns, working from home, cost of electricity, cost of internet, etc., I ask people to consider, is it an increased expense to you? That's one. Two, are you saving on other things? So are you saving on gas versus work, those types of things? So there's still a balance, because if as an employer you're asking me to pay for all of these things, then it might be cheaper for me to pay rent and for you to come into the office. So you have to look at finding that balancing act.
The International Monetary Fund says Latin America and the Caribbean region faces a third shock as global financial conditions tighten. States have already had to contend with the COVID-19 pandemic and more recently the impact of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Director of the IMF's Western Hemisphere Department said during the regional economic outlook for the Western Hemisphere, and he's warning tighter financial conditions will test public financing.
As public debt and financing needs remain elevated. In the near term, policy should focus on restoring price stability, first and foremost, and rebuilding policy space while protecting the vulnerable. Monetary policy should stay the course and not ease prematurely. Having to restore price stability later, if inflation becomes entrenched, will be very costly. Countries with limited fiscal space should focus on strengthening public finance while addressing social need.
A new Las Vegas coffee shop is proud to train and hire workers of all abilities, fulfilling a need in Las Vegas to help those who are disabled find meaningful work.
There's not a place like this in Las Vegas, but truly our people are just the happiest employees. They find joy in their jobs.
There's no secret syrup to why these workers want to work here and are eager and on time. They truly dig it. Taylor Cheney, owner of Dig It Coffee, says it's only because she believes in every worker's different abilities.
People who are working here are so proud. They're so proud to have a job. They're so proud to get a real paycheck.
Figuratively and literally through inclusion here, helping people of different abilities that many simply call a disability get a job and well-paying job. The mission touches Taylor personally.
My little sister Lindsay was born with Down syndrome, one of my very favorite humans, and her transition to adulthood was difficult.
Taylor says her sister is nonverbal, and at adult facilities, some caretakers couldn't see her sister's potential. That's what drove Taylor to create the Garden Foundation, providing classes and recreational activities and helping all abilities find purpose in meaningful work. What was a coffee delivery service to offices brewed into the concept of a full-blown coffee shop. They make sure every worker is well-trained and supported.
Now for little sports, the Windies have lost their opening ICC Group B World Cup qualifier, going down to Scotland earlier this morning at Belair Oval in Australia. There were easily upset by 42 runs, which makes their qualification task to the main group stage even harder. The Windies won the toss, opted to field first, and kept the scores to 160 for 5 off their 20 overs. Player of the match, George Muncie, top scored with 66 not out. That included 9 fours. Jason Holder took 2 for 14 and Alzari Joseph 2 for 28. The Windies, in reply, were shot out for 118 in 18.3 overs. Holder was also the best Windies player with the bat, top scoring with 38. That included 4 fours and a 6. Mark Watt took 3 for 12. Coming up next, a look at the weather. It's 26.1 degrees Celsius in Barbados at this time. However, it will feel like 32 degrees outside. The relative humidity stands at 84% and the barometric pressure at 1010.7 millibars. The winds are coming out of the east at about 15 kilometers per hour. Your second low tide will come around 16 minutes before 3 o'clock this afternoon. The first high tide will be at 25 before 11 this morning, and the second high will be at 13 minutes to 9 o'clock this evening. Seas expected to be smooth to moderate in open water with swells peaking at 1.5 meters. It's going to be partly sunny with a few brief isolated light to moderate showers today, mainly over western districts. And in the evening, it's going to be a little different, a mix of clear skies and clouds with a few brief isolated light showers. Here's a look at the temperatures for a few international cities. Well, that's it for the morning report. Our next newscast, Newsday, will begin at noon, followed by The World at 1 on our radio stations, 100.7 FM, 94.7 FM, and 98.1 The One. The CBC program Morning Barbados is next.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
It's 6:31. I don't know what kind of weekend you had, but mine was incredible. Wish I could tell you all about it. No matter what happened this weekend, though, we're happy that we're here up and going for another Monday morning. It's Monday, October 17th. Welcome to Morning Barbados. I'm Tishia Hines, and I'll be here with you for the next few minutes. Yeah, we're going to take you right up until 8 o'clock with some interesting discussion, some wonderful people, and you're going to have some fun, some laughs, and learn some new things as well. So thank you for waking up to join us this morning. All right, well, let me tell you what we have planned for you. Usually on Monday, we have the discussion that we call Conversations on CARICOM, and today is no different. We're going to be looking at the new Bridgetown agenda. We're going to tell you more about how Prime Minister Motley has been sharing what the goals are for Barbados and the region across the world. Also, we are celebrating the Publicist of the Year award with a Trinidadian neighbor who is sharing in the field of communication and doing very well for our region. And of course, we're going to tell you more about cyber security, because you need to know these days everybody has a smartphone. We want to make sure that you're fully aware of how you are sharing your information, how you can move away from sharing too much information, and what you need to do to protect you and your family from things like hacking and other things that now have become basic everyday things. also, we'll tell you about a film called 26. It's a short film by Daniel Boyce, a filmmaker who is a Barbadian, but he doesn't live here. He's going to, well, he's a second-generation Barbadian. He's going to tell us all about how growing up with immigrant parents impacted how he's moving forward with this particular show. And we are talking about Powerhouse Global Women 2022. It's an award as well, and we have a few good ladies coming through to talk about that. So lots planned for Morning Barbados today, and we're going to get started with His Excellency David Comichon, Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Tisha. Pleasure to be here.
It's wonderful to have you. Now, as I mentioned, the new Bridgetown agenda it comes off of a recent speech to the UN General Assembly that the Prime Minister made that we're going to be talking about this morning. And most importantly, the Prime Minister was talking about the need to repurpose the international institutions that were particularly established a few years ago to address problems that differ for today's problems. So let's talk about how the problems that exist today differ from years ago when these institutions were established, and why we need to kind of advocate to have them changed.
Yes, thanks, Tisha. Well, first of all, the Bridgetown agenda was developed right here in Barbados around the end of July going into August, when a number of leading minds from civil society and academia from across the world came to Barbados and brainstormed. You know, the world is in a crisis. How do we need to go forward as an international community? And so Prime Minister Motley got the opportunity at the recent UN General Assembly to present the Bridgetown agenda to the world community, because these are ideas coming out of Barbados and the Caribbean that the world needs. If we are to solve problems, new problems like climate change, the climate crisis, for example, if these institutions that were established in 1945, when most of the world were still colonies, if these institutions are to respond to the needs of the scores of developing countries that have now become actors on the world stage. So the Prime Minister laid out that vision in her speech to the UN.
And we must ask ourselves, therefore, whether the time has not come for a review of the settlement of the Bretton Woods institutions that no longer serve the purpose in the 21st century that they served in the 20th century, that they served when they were catering to a quarter of the nation states that are now members of this august institution. We ask ourselves whether the time has not come for our voices to act collectively to demand that through the boards of directors of the respective institutions. And why do I say so? The International Bank for Reconstruction and Development is really what the World Bank is. And maybe if we referred to that continuously, we would remind ourselves that the purpose of reconstruction and development must be appropriate to the century in which we live. And the century in which we live does not only demand of us the eradication of poverty, which remains a noble goal, but it demands of us equally the protection of global public goods. All of us in here have suffered as a result of the weakest of us being unable to rise to the occasion for the protection of public health. All of us in here now know what it is to be on the front line of the climate crisis.
The Prime Minister talked about the World Bank institutions in there and some of their responsibilities. Can we get into what she was asking for a bit more in depth in terms of what where their responsibilities should lie?
Yeah, but Tisha, in that clip, she's speaking about the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank, the IMF. But bear in mind, the Bridgetown agenda also targets informal institutions like the G20 and the G7 group of wealthy nations. And the Prime Minister also said, look, these institutions need to be reformed as well, because where is Africa? Where is Africa? Africa is not at the table. So G7, G20, you need to expand your membership to bring Africa, the African Union, to the table. So yes, so that's the basic idea is these institutions were established at a time when Africa and the Caribbean, we were still colonies, we were not at the table. So the Bridgetown agenda begins with that. That is the overarching idea. But then it goes on and says, look, even before we get into reforming these institutions, we have to deal with the current debt crisis that is facing scores of developing countries because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the shutting down in global supply chains, the war in Ukraine. Many countries are on the verge of a debt crisis. So the first plank of the Bridgetown agenda says we need emergency measures to help us out of this debt crisis. So for example, it says to the IMF, you need to go back to the emergency measures you had put in place at the height of the COVID pandemic, making credit easily and unconditionally available to developing countries. IMF, you also need to rechannel US 100 billion in special drawing rights. These are foreign reserve assets that the IMF allocates to countries around the world. You need to take 100 billion of those assets that are not needed by big developing countries and reallocate them to small and struggling developing countries that desperately need them. And she's also said to the G20 and the G7, you need to intervene with the multilateral development banks to suspend for a period of time payments on loans that developing countries are struggling with at this point because of the debt crisis, and also middle income countries like Barbados, those COVID-related loans that we are struggling with. This is a time when we must begin this process of reform by dealing with the immediate debt crisis and easing it. So that's step one of the Bridgetown agenda.
And the Prime Minister also spoke more on that.
We believe today that the most appropriate place to deal with global public goods is in fact the World Bank Group. And I'll speak more to this tomorrow, but I want to simply say that if companies, multinational companies, have contributed to the global public risk or benefit from the solutions for global public goods, then they ought to contribute to their resolution through a small percentage of their profits, funding the needs of countries, whether it is in the issue of climate, stability and resilience and adaptation, whether it is for the protection of biodiversity both on land and in our waters, whether it is for the protection of public health against the next pandemic, the slow motion pandemic of antimicrobial resistance or others that we have not even contemplated, or the provision of education for each of our citizens, because to remain on this earth without the benefit of education is to be sentenced to life imprisonment from a young age. Or access to electricity, as 600 million people in Africa do without it. Or the equivalent to the right to knowledge and prosperity in our age, that is access to broadband. And of course, as I said to Congress last week, believe it or not, the right to a bank account, because countries across the world are being denied the right to access correspondent banking and leaving their citizens and their economies to function as financial pariahs in a world that is supposed to be globally interdependent for the movement of capital. My friends, the provision of that fund to promote public goods at a global level is critical if we are to make a difference going forward and to achieve the peace, the love, and the prosperity to which I referred.
Yes, Tisha, she's referring to step 2 of the Bridgetown agenda. She's reminding the world that in 2015, the world agreed that we were going to pursue these 17 sustainable development goals, which is about eradication of poverty, food, shelter, education, healthcare, sanitation for human beings all across the world. And she's saying that these financial institutions now need to rise to the challenge at the scale that is necessary if mankind is going to achieve these goals by the year 2030. So step 2 of the Bridgetown agenda says to the international financial institutions, look, you need now to put together a fund of some US $1 trillion to make concessional loans to especially to developing countries to achieve these sustainable development goals. So this is the point. The developmental challenges facing the world today are on a much more massive scale than when these institutions were established years ago. So that is step 2, achieving the sustainable development goals for developing countries.
This is definitely a conversation we must continue, but it's a great start for us to start looking into the Bridgetown agenda and absolutely what's needed. We know that many of the reforms don't only require money, and you talked about the changes that need to be done. That starts with really dismantling the old order, how things were done before. How do you propose that we're going to be able to get this done, even past advocating at that level through the Prime Minister?
Well, let me also mention that the third step in the Bridgetown agenda then addresses the climate crisis. And the third step says, look, humanity is facing this existential crisis that can actually wipe us out. And we now need much more resources and finance to leverage, to direct towards solving the climate crisis. So the third step is calling for a new global institution to be established and to be financed at the level of 650 billion special drawing rights. Again, these are the assets that the IMF creates, and that global institution to be used if a country, for example, is hit by a climate disaster, for example, a hurricane. It should not have to be borrowing money to rebuild. That institution should be able to give it grants that it can rebuild. That institution should be able to give concessional financing to developing countries to make that transition to a low carbon society, to be able to adapt to global warming. And it should also be able to use those finances to drive private sector investment all over the world in adaptation to a low carbon societies, to drive the kind of investment that is going to be required if the world is actually going to come up to the challenge of putting those mitigation mechanisms in place to stop the global climate, the global temperatures rising to beyond 1.5 degrees by the end of this century. So this is a very ambitious agenda, but it is a very necessary agenda if we are going to preserve civilization, if people are going to live civilized lives in the rest of this 21st century, and if we are going to save the world from the existential threat of climate change. And now what Barbados wants is for all of CARICOM, all of our partners in the international community to mobilize around this Bridgetown agenda and make sure we get it implemented.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Ambassador. Always insightful.
Thank you, Tisha. My pleasure.
And coming up next, we're introducing you to the Publicist of the Year. The CEO's publicist is what she's often referred to. That's next on Morning Barbados. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
There is no place like home, but over the past year, home has taken on an especially significant meaning for most. At times, staying at home may be limiting, but it doesn't need to be boring. If you're someone who is great at the DIY life and you've made your home a haven for creating and making new things, this is the show for you. Send us an email at morninbarbados@cbc.bb and share how you've been making it from home.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 6:50 already, 10 minutes before 7 o'clock. The time is definitely moving along. We have to reach out and say good morning to some neighbors next door. Carla Williams Johnson is known as the CEO's publicist, and she has been awarded Female Publicist of the Year by the International Network. Good morning and congratulations.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. I almost didn't make it, you all. I had some, I don't know. The gremlins were ready with me this morning. All the time I was ready, and then all of a sudden I don't know what happened.
Well, thank goodness you are here, and it's wonderful to have you with us. I don't even know how we managed to connect. Maybe through those same gremlins, you never know. But we've been able to connect, and somehow I'm on your stream of information that you send out, and I got wind that you received this award. So tell us more about it, because applications were invited from across the globe.
Yes, it is actually a company out of the UK called AI Global, and the name of their magazine is CEO Monthly. And they created the Female Awards of the Year because what they wanted to do was celebrate women CEOs from across the globe. Because as we all know, women are dealing with a lot, a little bit more than our male counterparts. And they wanted to celebrate women from across the world and basically showcase all the things that they've done and the progress that they've made and the people that they've helped from different industries from around the world.
So tell me about how you felt when you received word that you had in fact won.
Well, first of all, I thought they sent it to the wrong person. That's the first thing. That's the first thing. I was like, what? I won an award? That's not true, right? And then they actually sent me the official press release and the documentation. I actually have my award coming in the mail at some point. And I was like, oh my God, of all the people in all the world, they chose me to be Publicist of the Year, and that actually felt so incredible. I can't even put it into words. Not just for me as a Black woman, as a woman of color from the Caribbean, but also for all my Caribbean ladies out there who are trying to push themselves through, who are putting themselves out there. I feel like this is a win for the region.
And I know that a lot of your work focuses on helping female entrepreneurs across the region. You want to have them seen and heard, not only here in the region, but certainly globally. So talk to us about your work.
Well, what I do, as you quite rightfully mentioned, is that I am on a mission to help showcase my Caribbean people across the globe. I always feel like even if we're from the Caribbean, we should not be kept back by our borders, whether physically or mentally. So I am on a mission to help people get seen, get heard, and paid globally. My clients have been seen in publications like Forbes, Huffington Post. Very recently, I realized that I was picked up by CBS and Fox. These are the places that I get my people into because I believe that people in the Caribbean have a lot to share, and the world needs to know what it is that you have to offer because we're doing all the work, right? We're working so hard. We're putting ourselves out there. We need to be recognized for it.
Absolutely. I know that you also mentioned that a lot of Caribbean people don't necessarily feel like they belong on the global stage. Why do you think this is, and how can we change this mindset?
I think a lot of us think because we're from the Caribbean, we've been told so long, you know, it's a third world country. Right here in Trinidad, we have a mantra where people say, oh, Trinidad is not a real place. And we internalize that as a real thing. And for that reason, we are afraid to, you know, put ourselves out there and, you know, be a small fish in a big pond, as they say. But I think that has changed. There's a lot of talent here. A lot of really good talent that could go toe-to-toe with any international person, company, conglomerate, you name it. What I need is for the world to see and hear us. Let us be seen as somebody, a force to be reckoned with. Not because we're from a third world country or a part of the region that very few know about, that we must be kept back. I feel like we need to be pushed forward, and I feel as if it's my job to get people out there as much as possible.
Well, don't feel too badly because there are quite a few episodes of Barbados is not a real place either.
Oh my God!
Online, so we can absolutely tell you about that.
I absolutely hate that statement. Every time I hear somebody say Trinidad is not a real place, I correct them one time. It's like, listen, we have a lot going for us. You need to be here.
I mean, even with that term, I think a lot of the times it's about people kind of highlighting a lot of the things that are authentically Barbadian or Trinidadian or Caribbean. And because you wouldn't necessarily see these things in other parts of the world, they think, that's why they say, okay, Trinidad is not a real place. I've seen the episodes as well, you know, the posts online and so on. So how do we kind of strike the balance? Because in mainstream areas across the world, most certainly in mainstream media, a lot of the times they want to water down what we are bringing. But we want to say we want to stay authentic to who we are. We want to stay authentically Caribbean. How do we, you know, penetrate those markets but stay true to who we are?
I think the goal is for us to accept who we are and embrace what makes us different. People are amazed when I go out there and they see me like drinking coconut water around the savannah, you know, just taking a trip to the beach. It's like, what 25, 30 minutes away. Like, people love those things. And those are the things that people just gravitate to. And I think once we accept that we're different, once we accept that we're unique, once we accept that we live in a place that people only dream of, once we accept that what we experience every day is actually on somebody else's bucket list, right? I think that's where the change happens. You have to embrace what makes you unique, and you have to push that forward. So all this, oh, we're not a real place, that has to stop. It really does, because once we embrace the things that make us unique, that will bring the right people to us, and then we feel confident in ourselves to showcase who we are, because we don't have to pretend anymore. We just have to be us.
Again, congratulations to you, our Caribbean neighbor, Publicist of the Year by International Network. Keep on keeping on, and do continue to share with us.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to everyone who's watching.
Thank you. It's just about 3 minutes to go before 7 o'clock. We're going to update you on the news at the top of the hour and then share more on Morning Barbados. Do stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
There is a saying, you can find a Bajan anywhere. Are you a Bajan living abroad? Or do you know of one who has migrated to another country? Well, we at Mornin Barbados would love to have you or them on our Bajan Afar segment. Share your amazing stories, experiences, and how you have adapted to a new culture. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.vb. And together we will travel the world.
It's alleged that at one time it misfired.
Stories of Barbadian communities as told by her people.
And the shell landed somewhere in Colonel's on a man donkey pen. He had just moved the donkey.
My Community, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Repeated on Wednesday at 1 p.m.
My Community, brought to you by the People's Market in Tudor Bridge. We do it right.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's 1 minute to go before the 7 o'clock hour on Morning Barbados. Coming up next on Morning Barbados, we're going to share with you more about cybersecurity. You definitely want to stay tuned for that to make sure you are fully aware of how you can secure you and your family. Up next, we update you on the news. Criminals with guns in Barbados are often as well equipped as the police. This revelation from Attorney General Dale Marshall, who's been making the point that policing today is very different from years ago.
The environment in which the service operates today is vastly different from the environment that they operated in 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And for those of you who were born perhaps in the 70s and earlier, I think you would have a good idea of what I'm talking about. The environment that our officers face today is one where they see a wider range of crime, some of which is more complex and far more dangerous than police officers of 2 generations ago. They're expected to respond to an increased level of gun crimes in particular, but also property crimes, financial crimes, crimes against the person, and in vogue these days is even cybercrime. Criminals have become more brazen. You see this. They've become more calculating and more savvy. In the case of gun crime, which I know concerns all of you, they are oftentimes as well equipped as the police service. I highlight this not to alarm you, but to underscore why it is so important for the public represented today by this congregation to play its part by assisting the police in every way possible. I've said it before, I can't say enough. If you see something, say something.
Earl was speaking during a service at the Calvary Temple Community Church to encourage lawmen, particularly in light of the gun violence in recent times. He also noted that concern about the crime situation is not restricted to Barbados.
We know that crime continues to be a major concern for the Barbadian public. And I take no solace in the fact that we are having a similar situation across the region, but it tells us that there's something happening that is not just local. In fact, only last week at a meeting in Jamaica, the Council of Law Enforcement Ministers and Ministers of National Security resolved that it was important for us to host in the region a special meeting to look at violence as a public health issue.
Mr. Marshall also spoke about the manpower shortage in the Barbados Police Service and efforts to remedy that situation.
We all know that over the years the service has been unable to attract the number of recruits that it needs. In fact, I can tell you that early in our last term, and I think Assistant Commissioner can confirm this, we had a a particular cohort at the training school of only 18 officers. 18 of our young men and women, only 18 in that year, were prepared to come forward and to join the service. I think the numbers have now moved up significantly, and we're now in our 40s. And if you have been following social media, you would have seen in the last day or so a very, very nice promotion inviting people to join the police service. We do need a few good men and women. In fact, 250 to be precise.
3.5 minutes after 7 o'clock, that's news. Morning Barbados continues after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
There is no place like home, but over the past year, home has taken on an especially significant meaning for most. At times, staying at home may be limiting, but it doesn't need to be boring. If you're someone who is great at the DIY life and you've made your home a haven for creating and making new things, this is the show for you. Send us an email.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Good morning. The time has moved on to just about 5 minutes after 7 o'clock, quickly moving by. If you have to get out of the house, make sure you do that as soon as you can and get out there, because we know that the traffic can be tight, especially when it's raining, and we really have been having some showers over the last 2 weeks. So you have to make sure you get out early, factor in the little extra time you need to take your time, and please, please be mindful as you move around. Be mindful of the pedestrians who are also using the roads, the bicyclists as well. I've seen some things that I care not to talk about, but we know exactly what we're speaking of. So just be mindful of that. So we told you, again today, we're talking cyber security. We want to make sure that you are aware, but more importantly, we want to make sure that you can take care of yourselves online, even if it is just a start. We have to say good morning to David Gittins and Anthony Harris, who are joining us now to help get us there. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, Tisha.
Here.
Morning, Barbados.
All right. Let's start with you, Mr. Harris. Now, I know that we started last week, and when we talk about continuing, I mean, where do you go? What advice, as we start, what advice would you give to the average person about how they should view data security?
The average person should view data security as an asset. It is information on you that has value to someone. And the same way you secure your wallet, you secure your data, whereby you limit what you put out there so someone cannot harvest it. You don't leave your wallet on the top of your car and drive away. So that is how they have to see it. And if they see it that way, they will be more careful, because everybody takes care of their wallet.
Mr. Gittins, let's get a little personal. As someone who is a data security consultant of sorts, how do you approach taking care of your personal data?
Well, the thing is, you have to appreciate the value of the data. A lot of things people think, well, it's not important. My name, my email address, my personal address, where I work and thing. A lot of these things that we don't see as valuable, you have to understand, as Anthony said, they are valuable. So you go extra lengths to make sure it's not easily seen. But the majority of the time, the people who want to get it, they try to trick you. They don't come straight and say, oh, I want your bike thing, I want this. They will disguise it like it might be some fun quiz on Facebook. Sometimes they set up fake interviews. They might give you some form maybe on the internet that you can get a green card. They might run some scams, say, oh, you can get this money, but I need your bank account number, your name, etc. It's usually tricks. I mean, Recently, we even saw people give you a computer test and say, here's a computer test, but in it they slip the question that they want. So we have to be mindful that these people out there always trying to trick us, the cyber criminals. We would have heard the Attorney General say just now that cybercrime is not one of the things that the police need to deal with, because it's really grown in the years and people have realized it's very easy. If I can steal people's data, that I can trick them in a scam, I can maybe take over them to open a mortgage for them, maybe I can even get into their bank account, maybe I can trick the employer if I can get the data. So we need to be aware that our data is really valuable and that people will use all sorts of tricks to try to get it from us piece by piece.
And sometimes it's not even a matter of getting the data from us. Companies need to be ready to protect the data that they collect as well. So what are some of the things, Mr. Harris, that businesses need to put in place to be able to protect the data of the people who do business with them?
Thank you for that question. One of the things that businesses need to do is to be aware of the Data Privacy Act. The Data Privacy Act specifies how data should be protected, and companies should look at investing some part of their revenues into protecting data cybersecurity. We have a challenge where data from a significant entity publish data on all the citizens, voting citizens of Barbados. So you have a case now where even though companies are working to protect your data, a lot of the data is already out there. So the cyber criminals have a starting point of how to target persons. So it makes the job of business even harder to protect your data, because as opposed to being a random action, they can say, okay, I can go to this list and find who this person is and then try to attack a business with more specific information we would have. So it'd be very challenging for our businesses to protect the data they collect from us.
Mr. Gins, what then do we do? Because a lot of the times when we're doing business on a face-to-face level, a lot of the information that we share is not information that we can say, well, I'm not going to give you proof of address. I'm not going to give you information about where I'm employed, how long I've been employed, et cetera, and all of the information that businesses, particularly banks and other institutions, usually collect about us. So, you know, what can we do? In recent times, we've heard a lot of discussion about data security where it comes to our new national ID cards as well. So how do we engage with businesses and how do we hold them accountable?
Well, one of the things we need to do is, first of all, know who you're dealing with in terms of the organization. Is this a reputable organization? Is this a trustworthy organization? So the same way how when say you want a job, the interviewers are going to do some research on you, find out your background. Is this person a criminal? Is he trustworthy? You know, anything strange in his background. We should do the same thing with the organizations that we want to do business with. Just do a little research. Sometimes just using Google and a few other things you can check. But at a greater level, it would be easier for, say, a government regulator to do these sort of checks. So we have in the Data Protection Act, we have provisions where organizations are required to do certain things to protect personal data. And what you need ideally is for the regulators to set up strict rules for the organization. Say you need to enforce best practice A, B, C, D, E, and then periodically audit them. Because as an individual, I can't go and check everything about organization to see if they're actually doing what they should do. But a regulator is in a better position to do that. Right, because sometimes you have a large organization, you trust that they're doing all the things they should do, and then you see a story that they've been hit with ransomware and all their data is out there. Chances are the regulators didn't enforce the requirements for cybersecurity strong enough, or didn't audit them strong enough. So in some cases, so there's a job for us as individuals to do research with people who are asking for our data, but then the regulators at the other end have to make sure that the best practices are there. Your previous guest would have said that people say Barbados is not a real country, Trinidad is not a real country, and we are. And we have the same sort of data security risks as, say, the US or Canada or the UK. Our regulators, therefore, have to act similarly to the US, Canada, and the UK to put those requirements for companies. The truth is, nobody wants to spend money. No company wants to spend enough money to be secure. That's where you need the regulators, because the people say, if I spend all this money in security, that's less bonus for me, that's less things I can do, less profit I can report. So the regulators at the end have to enforce that the different organizations follow the best practices. And that will mean spending money, maybe hiring people, but the regulators have to make sure that they do that.
I'm not sure, so you gentlemen will have to clarify for me. Mr. Harris, in terms of these regulations that we're calling for, will it mean that government will have to ask for specific data processes, specific data systems? Because if you are collecting data on people and doing a certain level of work, then we know that your system needs to be able to function at a certain capacity. So will this include systems as well as processes?
Yes, it would. The challenge that kind of David highlighted with regulators is that within our own government space, we don't have a Ministry of Information Security where we can have a centralized point where all of this information is gathered on companies that do business, who are data processors, who are data controllers, an area where the Data Privacy Commissioner can look to farm out some of the work that she has to do. The issue of managing and monitoring and auditing is an awesome responsibility, and it's going to be very time consuming. We have a lot of different components in different ministries that don't quite function as well because it's not their core business. The ministry, there needs to be a Ministry of Information Security where their core business is looking after the cybersecurity and information security apparatus of this country. And that's where we are falling down in both processes and data collection and making sure that we the consumers, we the voters, we the citizens of this country are safe from a cybersecurity point of view, and that somebody's out there watching this data, making sure that the government departments are doing the things they're supposed to do and providing concurrence on processes to make sure that we are as safe as possible. And I think that is the challenge where there's not enough narrow focus on in government to look at information security. So there might be time to have a paradigm shift where there is a government, a ministry that is responsible specifically for information security. And I think we are at that stage at this time.
I can see that there definitely is a need to control, to overview, to regulate, all of the other appropriate words that we can use to put there. And in closing, gentlemen, because this segment is never long enough, what are the closing words that you would share with the average person, and then the closing words that you would share with a business? So I'm going to task Mr. Gittins for the average person, and Mr. Harris, you talk to us about what businesses should do in your closing words.
All right, one of the greatest tools to use against cyber criminals is your brain, common sense. Think about something like, why are you asking me this question? Do you need to do this? Are you really likely to be a Nigerian prince who wants to give me money? The first filter we should use is common sense. Right? There are a lot of things on the internet that sound good. There are a lot of nice quizzes and things, but always question, why should I do this? Is it necessary? Do you need to know this? Sorry for making you laugh. Do you need to know this information? Right? So our brain is the best filter against scams and tricks and against oversharing.
I don't even know how you manage to say that with a straight face. Are you a Nigerian prince who want money? All right, Mr. Harris.
What I would say that businesses, you cannot practice security by obscurity, meaning you can't assume because Barbados is so small on the map, our GDP is so small that nobody wants to access your data. So once you say you can't practice security by obscurity, then you focus on being proactive, protecting your crown jewels, doing a risk assessment to see what is at risk. How do I protect it? Do I need cyber insurance? Do I have the right staff to protect me? Do I Have I involved my employees in security awareness training? Have I made them into human firewalls? Do they want to click the next ad that comes up in their email? You need to look at the impact of security culture. There's a culture of security in your organization that you have to foster to make sure that every employee is not the weakest link, that every employee understands that it's their livelihood on the line every time they open an email and click on the wrong thing. Business compromise email takes down businesses all the time, and we have to help our employees get to where they need to be. The management of the organization has to take responsibility for their role in cybersecurity, information security. It cannot just be the IT people's job. It's everybody's job to protect the organization because everybody benefits and everybody wants the business to succeed. And that's where we need to take it to that level. And also be aware of the Data Privacy Act of Barbados 2019 to make sure that we are in line, that we as an organization are good corporate citizens and do not fall on the wrong side of the law in this matter.
All right, I want to thank you so much, David Gittins and Mr. Anthony Harris, for coming in and sharing with us again. And this most certainly will not be the last that we see of you. Thank you very much. Have a great day today.
Thank you.
Thanks, be here. Well. Good morning, Barbados. Yeah.
Bye.
The time has moved on to 19 minutes after 7 o'clock. Coming up next, we are talking about a film that is telling us all about what it's like growing up to Barbadian parents in another country. That's next.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
It's alleged that at one time it misfired.
Stories of Barbadian communities as told by her people.
And the shell landed somewhere in Curlins on a man donkey pen. He had just moved the donkey.
My Community, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Repeated.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
7:21 on this Monday. Good to have you with us, especially those of you online. Thanks for making the time and sharing with us on YouTube. Remember, you can find us online. Speaking of online, a lot of the people who come on and watch on the YouTube service are Barbadians who are outside of Barbados, certainly those in the diaspora. And we have a lot of first and second generation Barbadians who are tuning in every day to get a little taste of what's happening here at home. Now, Daniel Boyce is a filmmaker, and he is making a film with a difference. He is talking about the whole concept of bullying, but he is talking about bullying in the home. So good morning to you and welcome.
Hi, morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. Now, I know that this topic can get a little controversial. Over the years, we've talked about the way that Caribbean parents handle their children, and many will argue that the old Bible verse, spare the rod, spoil the child, is the way we must live, and that's why a lot of the children these days are having challenges. You disagree somewhat, and I know you have a story to share, so tell us more.
Yes, so I really wanted to tackle the way we as Caribbean parents parent our children. So one of the main themes within the film, like you would have touched on, would have been, beatings. So my whole thing was, I don't see how we can expect our children to deal with challenges without having to resort to, becoming physical, if that's the example that we're setting within the home. So I wrote a film that challenges that, because I believe that we focus on aspects of bullying, but we never really highlight the type of bullying that might exist between, parents and children. And if we isolate some of those events, we can indeed see that some kids are, being bullied within the home. So I wanted to, write a piece that highlighted that, and hopefully can change, or at least start the discussion on how we should parent our kids.
So how do we draw the line? How do we make that differentiation between what is bullying and what we see as correction?
Well, that's a tough question. I mean, someone, that's better versed on the subject may have a different opinion to me, but I feel like we need to be able to say, all right, let's take beating, for example. If two children were at school and they had a disagreement and, the other kid decided to resort to violence to try and resolve that, we would say, well, that's not good. That's not accepted. That's not the right way to handle conflict. But then that kind of is thrown out the window when we, with parenting. So I feel like if we, take it away from us and, isolate it and see, well, would this be allowed within schools, between peers, in churches, what's not? Maybe that can start to, highlight and give us some kind of direction on how we should parent and how we should address conflict.
Yeah, I think it's important for us to differentiate abuse from punishmen. And I'm not one for corporal punishment. Never got any lashes, and I don't share lashes.
Really?
Can't you tell?
Lucky.
No licks, never ever.
Oh boy, well,
Good morning, Eileen.
I'm not
Yes,
lucky.
absolutely no licks, and I don't think there's any need for any licks now.
No.
But
I mean, I share your viewpoint. I have 3 kids, and I don't employ that strategy either. So
yeah. Okay, well, that's just me. And people will argue that, different strokes for different folks, literally. They
Right.
say some children, they need that type of correction. Others don't. I'm the type of parent who is a disciplinarian, but is one for talking. But
Right.
the way how your storyline is set, you talk about how different it is growing up with Caribbean parents as compared to how parents from other societies might discipline their children. And hence you came up with this script that you wrote called 26. You're getting ready to film in November. So tell
Yes,
me more
I am.
about that.
Yeah, so Caribbean parents. So there's a particular theme within the film, and I'll give you. It's not really a spoiler, but like a hint. So the protagonist, is at school, and he, encounters conflict with his peers, and his peers decide to, get physical, to express their frustration or what's not. So they, beat him up, I guess, and in the process of doing so, his school clothes get dirty, they get scuffed, you know what I mean, as they would. So as he returns to his home, his guardian sees his clothes scuffed and dirty, and she becomes frustrated. And her first thing is, why are you always coming home with your school clothes dirty? Do you not think I'm tired of buying shirts and buying pants? Which is a common frustration for parents. But I feel like had she stepped back and asked, why was this the case? You know what I mean? She may have been able to handle that situation differently. So there's common themes that a lot of us can relate to within the film. And like you said, I'm hoping to start production and wrap it up within November. One of the challenges today has been funding, of course. So we're seeing how best we can partner with local charities, because the message fits within, a lot of charities' message. So we're seeing how best we can, partner with charities and get the message out there. So, hopefully that can work out. If not, the project will be self-funded, and, we'll film within November and start to disperse it within next year.
I think it's a topic that will be well received, or at least people will be interested to see, the storyline behind it. This is a topic that so many people get into, but there are a lot of us who disagree, on polar levels, north and south, east and west, on whether you should enforce corporal punishment or not. So it definitely is timely and it's topical. And I think people will be interested. Now, you said you're filming in November. Do you have the full cast, or is there an opportunity for a few Barbadian actors to get in on the action?
That is such a perfect question, because I'm actually putting out the casting call today. So there's, you know, a wealth of opportunities for Barbadian actors to get in on it. That's who we're hoping to cast, you know. So we're going to be putting out the casting call. You know, persons can reach out to casting@26thefilm.com. They can send in a photo of themselves, age, you know, slight description. And, you know, we'll be dispersing the information on where the casting call will be and when it will be. It will probably be within the next 2 weeks, to be honest. And, yeah, I'd love persons to come out, audition, and, you know, let this film be a true representation of what we have to offer within Barbados. And not just on the filmmaking side, but on the acting side, on the makeup side. You know, we want to show off our beautiful locations. So although the project does have a strong message, we're still looking to highlight and show off the wealth of talent that we have to offer here in Barbados.
Yeah, I probably am going to get in some trouble for saying this, but licks on the beach. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's a serious topic. No, you know, I joke too much. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, so definitely actors and actresses, and like you said, people who are directly and indirectly involved in filmmaking. Now, you yourself are a photographer, so I'm happy to see that you're kind of making the transition into filmmaking as well. Yes, and I wish you the very best. I certainly hope that you continue to share with us last words on what you would like people to do, or what you would like the outcome to be of this film, 26.
The outcome of the film, ultimately, like I said, it is to show off and highlight our talent within Barbados. But on a more serious note, I want to start the discussion on how we parent our kids and how we can, you know, raise the next generation to be able to communicate effectively and solve problems without having to resort to physical confrontation.
Thank you so much. It was great speaking with you again, Daniel. I wish you the very best. Maybe I will try out for a part in your movie. Who knows?
Well, let's go. Let's have it.
Never. Okay, we're definitely going to stay tuned. Thank you. Have a wonderful day today and a great week ahead.
You too.
Okay, it's 7:30 in Barbados and across the Eastern Caribbean. Coming up, we're telling you about a men's extravaganza, something just for you guys. Stay with us.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Some ask, what makes Barbados so special? We at Mornin Barbados say it's you, our exceptional youth. You are talented, resilient, and inspirational. You are the epitome of the Barbadian spirit, testing the boundaries of your creativity. If you are an entrepreneur, artist, baker, designer, author, or have done anything you think should be highlighted, email us at morninbarbados@cbc.bb. Let us show the world our exceptional Bajan youth.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It's already 28 minutes before 8 o'clock. We just have 28 minutes left in the Monday edition of Morning Barbados. So let's go right ahead and welcome a gentleman who is helping to put together something amazing for men. It's a men's sports extravaganza. Let's welcome Dr. Anthony Cummins, principal psychologist and chief organizer for the men's sports extravaganza. Good morning.
Good morning, Tisha. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
I'm fabulous. Thank you. Very
All
much
right.
so.
Wonderful to see you, and I'm really happy to hear about this initiative. So before we delve into exactly how it will unfold, tell us what it is and where the idea to have it came from.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to all the viewers, all the listeners across radio and television land as well, internet land. Now, the men's extravaganza began. Pearson will be more familiar with this last June when I came on Morning Barbados and promoted basically a men's fun walk for Father's Day after recognizing that Father's Day is one of those days that is only heard 2 weeks before the original time and date for it. So we got together since then, form a committee, and ever since then our mantra was never to allow men not to be heard of at the highest level before Father's Day. And this is one of the main initiatives put on by the CSI for men and for fathers.
All right, when you talk about CSI, we expect to hear Miami or New York behind it, but that definitely, that acronym is for something else. So talk to us about that organization.
And thank you. That's why I paused, because I thought it would trigger some debate or discussion. CSI, the Center for Solutions and Influence. Most persons will know of this as a center which caters to at-risk boys and girls. And now we have expanded to catering for men. I didn't say at-risk men and fathers, but I said for men and for fathers. And so this definitely is a forensic and a very focal point of our mandate, dealing with men and fathers, because our mission is definitely to ensure that men are definitely restored to that place where they are known to be, original place of responsibility and leadership.
Good stuff. I know a lot of men bond over sport, so this is a wonderful opportunity to get men and boys together on this most momentous occasion, I would imagine. So you say it's going to be at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital Sports Grounds to celebrate International Men's Day and other related things. But importantly, you're going to ask men to come out and participate in 25 different kinds of sports between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So tell us more about the actual events.
So, good. So 25 different sports. We have a number of activities. You're talking about chess, draft, tug of war, dominoes, football, cricket, you know, right down the line, volleyball. What is interesting is that the blind community also promises to Six Love, the national domino team of the national domino team, and definitely that's a highlight that we are looking forward for. They're also going to be playing in some blind cricket as well. So we have a number of national and organized teams that will be playing in this extravaganza. Our aim is to put 5,000 men plus their families on that pasture. Security definitely will be a highlight for many persons who want to feel secure. We have contacted the Barbados Defense Force. We're working with the the police service, Barbados Police Service as well, to keep safety out. So families, you don't have to worry. You can come out. We're going to be safe and that kind of thing. There's going to be a number of other activities, lots of surprises. We have over 40 persons have registered in terms of food tents and different other forms of tents that will be on display, businesses and so on. We have a number of activities for children as well. Ladies, this is important for you. Because you hear men, it does not mean that you are invited. If I issue to you a special invitation this morning for you to come out and cheer on the men, you know, those of you that are looking for good men, this is a good time for you to come out as well to cheer on the men. I know Tisha, you will laugh at that. I will cheer on the men and make sure that you stand behind them. We want to make this society a good society, and we are reducing all forms of lawlessness and violence. So we thought that this activity would be a major success by putting on this event for all the men. So the key point, special invitations to the ladies. There's going to be pictures, a picture booth set up where you too can take your pictures and, you know, with your children. Come out, children. So females, it's time for you to share on the men. We're going to be having a number of activities as well. The bikers are going to be there. The expose of the cars, the vintage cars will be there. You know, you name it, it's a packed event from 10 until 6. Entertainment galore is going to be there. I heard a buzz about the boxing match that is going to take place on that pasture as well. So you name the sport, it's going to be there.
I'm really happy to hear that it's also an inclusive event, and so you have some members of the disabled community who are going to be participating, not only by showing up at the event, but, you know, physically being a part of what's happening there. And there's also a fundraising element to what you're doing.
Thank you so much. One of the key things there, you heard me mention about the differently able community. We definitely believe, you saw it in the newspaper on Sunday, you saw it all over social media on the Saturday. The blind, the National United Society for the Blind, they are definitely in need of what you call the oh boy, I can't remember the name for that. Yeah, but the sticks that they walk with, the cane, they're definitely in need of canes, and we are doing our best to make all the donations that we collect. We're going to share it with them so that they can get the canes and so on for them. And so there are going to be a number of persons that will be moving around on the pasture that will be asking you for your donation. But just remember that this event is totally free. It's totally free, but you can give a donation. Also, for our soup kitchen, we are inviting all of you to bring some item. They're going to be barrels placed around the registration area, and there you can bring a dry item, good, or something to share that with us. If you want to bring more than one, that's all right. And you put them in the barrels there, and we are very appreciative of this, because we're definitely looking forward to opening that soup kitchen in the new year. So thank you very much already for your donations. We also want to thank you for thank a lot of the sponsors. We can't name all this morning, but we definitely want to thank all of our sponsors, those of you that have donated, make sacrifices. We know that this is a very ticklish time of the year for you to be out more disbursing more funds, and therefore we appreciate all of you. The Queen Elizabeth Hospital for donating the grounds. We thank Fund Access. These are some of the names that came off. Koeman, we thank you, Rubis, for even sharing their thanks with us. We thank you, the Center for Solutions and Influence. Definitely, we are looking forward to having a great time because of your input. On that day, men are definitely looking forward. We are looking forward for men to take advantage of all the health checks. There's going to be a gym and fitness center there as well. We are looking forward for you to take advantage of this. So it doesn't matter who you are, what color you are, what religion you are, or what gender you are. Sorry, not gender. What type of sexual orientation you are. They pause on that. Come out and be a part of this event on that day.
Definitely sounds like a family event. If you could hope for the most ideal outcome from this, what would you hope it would be?
Thank you very much. At the end of the day, this is just a beginning of one of the steps that we're looking to help society feel safe. We're not going to play that we don't know of it. In recent times, there has been a spike in crime and a whole lot of gun violence and so on. And you saw who has been at the hem of this. What we are trying to do is to initiate a mandate and a movement that will help men to understand, look, you are men, men of responsible. Help us to execute the 4 pillars that we stand on at CSI for Men and Fathers, and that is the rest approach, and that is responsibility, education, support, and transformation. If at the end of this event we can see a few men, families restored only because of this, I can feel 100% that we have begun that work. On that day, and I know that this is very controversial, but on that day, one of the things that we're looking to promote and one of the key messages is that we are inviting men, those men that have not supported their children in eons, those men that have found difficulty or broken up with your relationship, and then as a result, you're not able to see the child. I'm saying to you, we need you to take at least $500 between now and then. Try to save at least $500. If you got to send it through money order, MoneyGram, whatever you have to do, I want you to take that money and give to your children. This is going to be a message that we're going to send out strong, because we want men to start supporting. A lot of men up there, you're good fathers, you're good men, but we want you to start supporting those children that you've not supported or that you stopped supporting, because children are essential to the betterment of our society.
And I'm happy for us to end on that note. And, I think this is a very important event. I certainly will be there. I'm not looking for, you said if you're looking to but I certainly will be there. I think it's a great family event, and I think that's some wonderful advice for men. If there's one thing that resonates with me is one of my listeners on radio said to me, he said, when it's Mother's Day, everybody talks about all the positive things that mothers do, but when it's Father's Day, somehow they talk about all the negative things that fathers do. So let's make this a positive time for the men and boys in our lives. Thank you so much, Dr. Anthony Cummins.
Thank you so much. And let me encourage you, go to our to our social media handles, CSI for Men and Fathers, register there. You need to register to participate, and call us for any other information that you need, 269-0798, 269-0798. Thank you so much, Tisha, for having me on your live today. I thank you, and I really pray that CBC goes from greater to greater. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe we'll have an episode of Man Talk as well. Hey, just about 17 minutes to go before 8 o'clock. Coming up, we're celebrating a lady who is a powerhouse on the world stage. Global Women's Awardee 2022, Eleanor Small, joins me after this.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Enjoy movies, soaps, drama, comedy, inspiration, education, music, and more. You get it all when you get MCTV, because MCTV gives you more.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing you the news.
It's alleged that at one time it misfired.
Stories of Barbadian communities as told by her people.
And the shell landed somewhere in Colonel's on a man donkey pen. He had just moved the donkey.
My Community, Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Repeated on Wednesday at...
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
7:45, time to make a move. If you have to get out of the house, if you don't, you are absolutely lucky. Maybe you're still working from home, maybe you're retired, whatever it is, make sure you enjoy your day today. And we certainly hope we're setting a good tone for your day and the week ahead. Lots to do and see, and believe it or not, we're well into October. That means it's Christmas. That's what we always say as Barbadians, even though some stations are already playing Christmas music. I don't know. Maybe my Christmas music is on too in the car. Who knows? You tell me what your thoughts are. Remember to follow us online. So we told you that a lady who is a powerhouse of a lady is joining us now. She is the Powerhouse Global Women's Awardee 2022. Good morning to you, Eleanor Small. Oh, we are having some technical challenges there. I'm going to give our personnel an opportunity to get Eleanor up and running once again. But this is a lady who grew up here in Barbados, but immigrated to the UK, and she does a lot of work in terms of philanthropy. She's a philanthropist, and she's been awarded, and we absolutely want to celebrate her this morning. So once we get her back here, we're going to be able to speak to her and hear more about all of the work that she's doing all around the world, and of course for a number of organizations as well. She's a founder of multiple organizations as well, and she's also worked with a number of sporting and fundraising organizations over the years as well. So remember, you can find us on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook, and you can find out more about what's happening on Morning Barbados, what's happening with the morning report, and during our newscast right here. So follow us online. It's Morning Barbados 246. On Facebook and YouTube is CBC Barbados, and I believe is CBC Barbados 246 on Instagram, subject to correction, but you can definitely find us if you start typing in with that search. you most certainly can find us on Instagram as well. Get your updates and be sure to subscribe and like, and you will get that bell chiming when we have news updates for you throughout the day instead of just waiting for the regular newscast. We make sure that we're online as well. We're going to take a break as we continue to resolve the technical challenge, and hopefully when we come back, we will have Eleanor Small joining us on screen.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Books open your heart, your mind, and your soul. They are educational, entertaining, inspiring, and motivating. Are you an author of a recent book you want to share? Then Mornin Barbados would love to feature your book in our The Next Chapter segment. Send us an email to morninbarbados@cbc.bb. That's morning without the G. Come and let us turn those pages together.
While you go about your business, we go about our business, and that is gathering the news. Stay up to date at CBC News Barbados on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Get news update on radio throughout the day. And join us for the CBC News Night at 7 every night. CBC News team is on the job and bringing...
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
11 minutes before 8 o'clock, just 11 minutes left in today's presentation of Morning Barbados. All right, let's see if we can get Miss Eleanor Small in with us again. Technology is something else. Woo! There she is again. A beautiful picture. Oh, Miss...
Not good.
Miss Small, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I'm here just celebrating my birthday in beautiful Barbados, my lovely home.
When is your birthday?
Yes. It was my birthday a few days ago, yes.
So happy belated.
And,
would I be out of place to ask you for an age?
Thank you so much. Yes, would you believe it? I am 84.
Oh, wow. You absolutely do not look 84. You're aging beautifully, like a fine wine.
Thank you, thank you. Yes.
All right, so tell me about...
I've done a lot that you can imagine.
I know. So tell me about this, this wonderful award that you are celebrating, the Powerhouse Global Women 2022 Award. Talk to us about how you got awarded through that organization.
Well, I would say that it was divine intervention. I was, about 2 years ago, I was going to church. Instead of driving, I walked and I fell on the pavement. I don't know why I fell, but suddenly I look up in the eyes of this beautiful Asian lady who was a healer, and she just, I was hurt. So they called the ambulance and she came. She was on her way to a conference. She rang them and said, I'm with this lady, I'm taking her to the hospital. I'm going to come into the hospital. She just became my friend. And she was the one who actually nominated me for this award because she came to my house, realized the things I had done, things that I had done for a long, long time and not got the recognition for, even from my own people. But and that's why she nominated me, and here I am. I was fortunate, well, honored, felt blessed to be with 49 other women from around the world. Europe, well, I was part of that, Asia, Africa, and USA. And it was really awesome to be part of that.
All right, that's excellent. And again, congratulations. Well deserved.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I've read through some of the organizations that you've been a part of over the years, the things you have done. When you reflect on all of this work you've done in the area of fundraising and philanthropy, etc., how does it make you feel?
I didn't even realize, I do things because I sort of the way I was brought up to help those who couldn't help themselves, you know. And as a teacher here, I just try to teach as much as I can what I pass on to people. And as I said, my mother actually taught me this, and I was lucky. What's happening here?
We can hear you. Continue.
Yes. So I have done things that I didn't even realize. You can hear. Yes, done. Not looking right here. Right. I've done things that I mean, I didn't even think that people were realizing I'd done these things.
Now, in 2017,
for instance,
in 2017, while here in Barbados, you met Chad Sarua Bowen, and you kind of changed the trajectory of what he was doing with his music. You're the one who funded some of his works, and you also funded one of his first music videos. So talk to me about that relationship with Chad and what kind of edged you on to do so much for him in terms of music and his art.
Well, I met this young guy. I got an award. It was a BLP award because of the work I do there for them, you know, fundraising and so on. And they sent me to collect this award. And again, this must have been divine intervention, because I was sitting beside this gorgeous young man who, just got very, very close to me. And then, there he was at my hotel and showing me what he did and so on. And I just said, I will sponsor your record. And then it went further and further. Now, I mean, he's my godson now, my adopted godson. And this is one of the best things that happened to me because he is so talented. So I not only, there were 3 music videos, and I funded all of them, all of the music videos. Took him to my house in it was 2018, yeah, for 6 months. And he's done extremely well. I've even got him on the X Factor, so that's something I've done. But before, the thing I would like to talk about, I would like to tell you that one of the things that I, like when I was in the civil service for over 30 years and never got promotion, despite my good work being better than anybody else, and then realized it was because of my race. So I took that opportunity, the opportunity after my children had got their qualifications and so on, and I took them to the industrial tribunal. I don't know how I did it, but I did it, and that was around 1995, 96, I think it was. And that was one of the highlights of my achievements. The thing is that after doing that, I'm getting a bit of a thing here.
That's okay.
Sorry.
Glad to hear that you're sharing some of the highlights. As we run down, though, tell us what receiving this particular award means to you. I know that you are working. I know that you're working to bring awareness about Barbados and what's happening here in the region to a new generation of Barbadians, second generation Barbadians in the UK as well, and younger generations. So continue the good work.
Yes, yes. To me, young people are very, very important. And it's meeting Chad was one of the highlights, really.
All right. I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing with us. Not the most ideal because of the technical challenges, but generally we got to know a little bit more about you, and we'd like to offer congratulations on that very prestigious award for all the work you've done over the years. And we're happy to have you here in Barbados celebrating your 84th birthday. All right, coming up tomorrow on Morning Barbados, we're telling you all about the Barbados Trust Funds Entrepreneur Pediatric Care with Dr. Gillian Birchwood, and Thorne will be talking fitness. Who knows, I might have to do a few push-ups or something of a sort. Hey, have a great Monday, and be sure to tune in again tomorrow. Be safe, and remember to wear your smiles. Bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.